Welcome to Cyber-Conversations, the show where it's okay to agree to disagree. Today, Bob and I are continuing our discussion on Justice League. Um, if you haven't already done so, please hit like and subscribe and enjoy the show. Yeah, because
I
there were a
think that
couple of things where you start to see that Cyborg is coming around and starting to realize that his father isn't the monster that he had created in his mind. Because first there was when they go to the lab to resurrect Superman, and the his father catches them there, and Victor tells his dad like we need some time. So his dad doesn't even question it, just says all right, and tells like the other workers there, this is a legitimate alarm. We have to get out of the building.
right.
His father trusts him and knows that he's out for good. And so Victor starts to realize, this isn't like this is my dad. And then of course, he sees his father die. And I think and of course there's that first he's already upset, but he also thinks his father died for no reason, trying to destroy the mother box. But then
No,
he
he
realizes
knew.
he
That's what
realizes almost immediately that it wasn't that he was trying to destroy the
yeah.
mother boxes. He knew he
He
wouldn't be
marked
able
it.
to.
He
Yeah,
marked the
he
box
marked
so
it
they
by
could
making
track
it
it.
the hottest thing in the entire planet.
Right.
Yeah, he realized that almost immediately, but his first thought when he saw it happen, you could see him break down.
Yeah, he got
So yeah,
Thanos. He got Thanos. It
it,
was
it
either
was
that or either that he was reappeared on the game grid, and that's a whole nother movie.
But
Yeah.
yeah, so I really liked yeah, the whole Cyborg story is just really done well in the Zack Snyder version. And the same thing can be said about The Flash. I don't really like Ezra Miller's portrayal of the Flash because I'm more used to the Flash being this the Flash is usually kind of cocky and kind of full of himself. And instead, we got Ezra Miller as this unsure kid who's kind of out of his league.
Right, yeah, there was a little Wally West-ish uh ishness there, not too much, but a little bit. But
Yeah,
yeah, kind of the bumbling kind of kid who doesn't have his path
yeah,
type of thing, and that was his story, which obviously happens at the end when he uses the Speed Force to rewind time or whatever it is that he
yeah, yeah,
does.
yeah,
But he because they're just like with Cyborg, ironically, who listens to his dad. He's listening to his where he's speaking to his dad and hearing those voices in his head as he's doing it, and that's kind of his redemptive arc um, there for the Flash. But the other thing I liked about the Flash, and I know I mentioned it to you earlier, was I like that in the Whedon version of the Flash, he was like scared to go help, and Batman's like,
yeah.
"Go
Just
save
save
people,
one
just save
person.
one person." And I'm
Yeah,
like, "Yeah, the Flash is," but he wouldn't be like that. And in this one, he wasn't like that at all. He was like
yeah. No,
getting
they
he got
yeah,
into it every time. He was fully there in the battle. Yeah, he's untrained. It's not like the Flash is like a warrior and that type of
yeah.
thing. Um,
But he
but
wasn't. But he already knew to save people. Yeah, because he had never. At least we got the impression he wasn't really saving people in the Joss Whedon version. But we see him save Iris in the Zack Snyder version.
right,
And that was a scene I loved, partially
right.
because
I
of the
I did
music.
I like that. I like that scene too. I thought that was pretty good because that introduces them and then they come in. She's in the Flash
Yeah.
movie, which I know we'll get to. But like it was, yeah, I thought the Flash, like I said, the standouts for this one, I've said it the past few years since this thing came out, is really liked how the Cyborg and the Flash's stories really fleshed out those characters. They definitely provided more depth to them, but Cyborg was really was kind of the standout. I was really happy with how they did that. Because Aquaman and Wonder Woman are the same, and as they always are. I mean, Wonder Woman kind of brought, kind of held the team together ish a little bit. Batman was, Bruce Wayne. He was just like, we got to do this. We got to form this team. And she was like the foil to his, good cop bad cop thing. And she goes and meets Victor and goes, hey, there's more to you. There's things you can do, that type of thing.
Yeah.
But other than needing Superman to defeat Steppenwolf, it was really, I mean, Cyborg and the Flash that really kind of, I mean, the Flash ultimately saved the whole thing, but Cyborg was the one, really pulling it apart.
Yeah.
I know Superman needed to get in there, but there was a lot where their characters kind of sort of carried the movie. There's so many times where if that character hadn't been there, it wouldn't. That would have been the end of it.
Hmm.
Um, Along, in their battle with trying to defeat Steppenwolf and stuff like that.
One thing I noticed was that another scene that was added by Joss Whedon that we didn't get in the Zack Snyder cut, and I'm pretty sure that this scene was cut in because of Warner Brothers again saying they wanted a more lighthearted movie. Um, but as I said, Wonder Woman stopped the bank robbery, and in Zack Snyder's version, she talks to that little girl. In the Joss Whedon version, we don't get that scene, but in Joss Whedon's version, at the very end of the movie, we see Wonder Woman talking to a group of kids. And so I don't know if there's like I don't I kind of wish that that scene was also in Zack Snyder's version, but I understand why it wasn't. Like there was no reason, there was no need for it because we already had this.
So yeah, speaking of Wonder Woman, I found it, there was a lot more of what was happening on Amazon Island. Um,
Well, we
and
get a longer version
we
of
get a
yeah,
longer version, and then we get the firing of the fiery arrow because they know Diana will know what it means, and then she goes into the crypt down below.
yeah, where the mother box is.
Right, and sees the whole story play out on the walls, in the, I guess you'd call them hieroglyphics or the sand paintings, whatever you want to call them,
Yeah,
which we did not get in the Whedon version.
yeah, yeah,
Um, and so I think that added to it too, because you're right there, more near the beginning, you're getting a setup of
yeah.
what's coming up.
She was still in that crypt in the theatrical version, but we didn't see the extent to like what her sacrifice was when she leaves that crypt because that's where the mother box calls down Steppenwolf, and in Joss Whedon's version, she runs out, and we immediately get the chase where he's running after Steppenwolf is kind of jumping these super jumps, trying to catch up to them. In
Right.
the Zack Snyder's version, she has the Amazons destroy these wooden uh,
Yeah, the
planks,
the
basically
posts. Yeah,
that yeah
the
that hold up these huge stone
walls.
doors,
Right.
and she manages to get out, and then that whole crypt falls into the ocean with Steppenwolf in it, and she's now sacrificed all of those Amazons, and they went willingly, trying to take him down. That was and you see it because. I mean, you see it in her face because Connie Nielsen is a really good actress who plays
Yes.
Hippolyta.
Hmm.
And did I say that right?
Yes, you did actually.
Hippolyta.
I think when we did Wonder Woman, we didn't say it right, but that time you just
Yeah.
nailed it.
Yeah. But yeah, so she was a really good actress, and you can see the pain in her face that she's just sacrificed all those women. But then, of course, it really was all for nothing because we do see that Steppenwolf jumps out and chases after her. We get
Yeah,
an
and
extended chase. Sorry.
oh, I was gonna say, and I would think that they would know that just sealing him up in a ancient building. I granted the walls were thick, but seriously, she fought him when he first, she fought Darkseid
Yeah.
in the original battle. Very Lord of the Rings, by the way.
Mhm.
Um, with all of them teaming up, and then the race of men, and then the Atlanteans, and then the Amazons
And
all
the
get a box and
elves.
they go, yeah. So it's
And
the
the elves and
elves,
the
the
dwarves.
elves, the dwarves, and the race of men.
Elrond and
Exactly, and then
wizards.
right, but there was no the Fellowship was dysfunctional and toxic in this
Yeah.
particular movie, but
And there were no
Woody.
hobbitses.
There was no Hobbit. There was no Frodo
No,
to
no
carry.
hobbitses.
No Hobbitses.
No
But
hobbitses?
that scene was, well, cool. It was very reminiscent of
But they did.
and well, go ahead.
Well, but they did have they had a stuntman playing Ares, but they superimposed David Thewlis's face so that he would appear
Right.
as Ares.
Right, and they had a whole bunch of the gods. They had a Green Lantern
Yeah, yeah,
there that he did not last very long, but kudos to throwing that in there. I wonder who that
yeah.
ring went to when it came off.
Well, you see it go flying into space, so
Right, but
because Darkseid tries to catch it.
right, yeah, he kind of looks at it and he's like, hmm. I think
Yeah,
the
I want
ring was
that.
like, should I go to Darkseid? That's kind of what I thought. It's like hanging there, and I'm like, when you just take off. But yeah, that
And then there was something else that I loved about Zack Snyder's version, and that was giving an actual reason for Steppenwolf.
oh, 100%.
Because he didn't
100%.
have one in the Joss Whedon version. He just wants to blow up the Earth for reasons, but in this,
Well, for
it's
no
that
reason,
Steppenwolf. Yeah,
really.
well,
I mean, there
yeah,
really isn't any reason
yeah.
type of
But
thing.
in this movie, we get Steppenwolf is trying to get out of like he's basically under Darkseid's foot because he tried to rise up against Darkseid at some point
Right.
in the past. Darkseid put him in his place and says, "Until you redeem yourself, you are going to be under my boot." And so he keeps asking Desaad, "Can I talk to Darkseid now?" And Desaad's like, "No, no, you still have like 10,000 more planets to enslave or whatever it was." Then he tells Darkseid near the end, he realizes this is the planet where the anti-life equation is.
Right.
So he's
Yeah.
he's got something now that Darkseid wants, and he's like thinking, this is gonna get me in Darkseid's good graces. Finally, I have the means to rise up as I'm supposed to, because he's
Well,
actually
and then they add something even more, which makes Steppenwolf, which is the gosh, now it's escaping me. The it's not antimatter. What is it?
anti-life. The
Yeah, the
anti-life
anti-life
equation.
is actually anti-life equation is on Earth,
Yeah,
and
because
that to me added an even more. Um, I think that's something that would have been that clearly would have been the reason that because Darkseid at the very end is like we're gonna do this the old-fashioned way. I think is almost what he says. He's like muster all the ships. We're headed to Earth, and we never got that whole battle, but
I think that's what we were going to get. I
right.
mean, again, the whole nightmare thing that we get at the end of this movie is hinting at the future of the DCEU because Zack Snyder wanted to make that 5 movie series where Superman becomes a bad guy because he is corrupted by Darkseid. And those all come from here where Darkseid realizes I mean, he already knew the Kryptonian was going to be a problem, but now he actually sees the Kryptonian for the first time at the end of this movie.
Right.
And plus such a more satisfying ending for Steppenwolf. In Joss
Oh,
Whedon's version,
100%. 100%.
Steppenwolf feels fear because his like horn gets cut off and he's feeling fear, and because fear draws the parademons, they decide to devour him. The whole fear thing isn't even brought up in Zack Snyder's Justice League.
No, not at all. And I think the way Steppenwolf went out in the Zack Snyder's was
Oh, so much better.
so much better.
He
Like
gets
because
he
he's
gets
the
worked.
object less. Yeah, he does.
Yeah,
Well,
first he gets
Wonder
worked
Woman.
by everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, he gets punched, he gets thrown, and then finally Superman punches him so that he flies back toward the boom tube, I guess it is,
Yeah, it's a boom
that
tube,
goes
which
to
is from the comic
Apocalypse.
book. That is
Yeah,
comic.
but as he flies through there, he passes Wonder Woman. She does that badass jump and cuts his head clean off, and we get a beautiful shot of his head landing in front of the camera, which is way darker than I would have expected from a Justice League movie. But I was there for it. I loved
Oh,
it.
yeah, it was great. And you know, and speaking of that scene, we also got Granny Goodness.
Yep,
Um,
we do get to see Granny Goodness
yeah, we get
for
to
a
see Granny
second.
Goodness, who's from the comic book.
Yeah,
It's coming back to Desaad. I mean,
yeah, we see him there too.
Peter Guinness voiced that. And speaking of Ray Porter, who's awesome, Ray Porter is awesome
Yeah,
voice actor. He was Darkseid, and it is just such a. I mean, the fact that even for the theatrical version, and I know Joss Whedon had to pick up the pieces and had all these mandates placed on him to like fix a few things, you know, and probably stay within some type of budget. They probably gave him a little more money, but I cannot believe that they cut out Darkseid at all. I mean,
yeah,
if they had just thrown him in there, not even with Desaad, if just they had one little Darkseid scene where Steppenwolf goes up to the communication, the telephone that he uses, whatever it is, and has one little conversation with Darkseid, it would have been like, oh, and like you talk about how he had no motivation. It's because they didn't even hint at it. I mean, you know, as we've spoken about before, Steppenwolf, completely different characters in both the theatrical version as well as the Snyder cut. I mean, we had a completely different looking character, complete different motivation, lines. I mean, completely different script spoken. You know, it really in the Snyder cut, I think Steppenwolf came off more as the. I'm going to use this phrase, but it's not quite right. Is like kind of the tortured soul. I mean, you would expect, as you mentioned, it was because he was trying to overthrow and he'd been put in his place. But it's not like he spent the any time in the movie in the Snyder cut grumbling about like, oh well, I'm going to get my revenge on Darkseid and stuff like that. He just wanted to go home. You know, it's like, hey,
yeah,
can I'm done here? Can I go? And that's why when he found the anti-life equation, and he was just all excited, and he's like, look, it's here. And
yeah,
then Darkseid's like, well, if you do this, then you can come home. Because before it was like, hey, you have to conquer 50,000 worlds before we'll let you come back.
yeah.
And I don't even know what number world he was on getting there to Earth. Just saying, it could have been at like 3, and he had 47,997 left, or
Yeah.
whatever. I don't know. But
However many it was. It was
yeah,
going to
however
take a
many it
while.
was. So yeah, it was. Yeah, he was gonna be, he was bummed out. But yeah, the Steppenwolf really was, um, you know, more than, not more than, but I think stepping up Steppenwolf. Um, It'd be like like a show on TV. Welcome to Stepping Up with Steppenwolf. And but you know, the fact that they changed him, changed his lines, gave him the motivation, expanded his character. I mean, everything was just expanded, and not just characters, but yeah. And this is just a theme that we're going to keep talking about with the Snyder Cut, is just a more complete story. Things were done that could have been done in the theatrical version, like we talked about with the Superman scream at the beginning,
Hmm.
where it could have been like that would have been easy to put in there, and then you would have been like, oh, that's why that happened. I think it would have been a lot better. But the bottom line is again what I said earlier, which is, you know, you give Zack Snyder enough time, he's going to tell the story that he wants to tell, and it's going to be good.
Yeah. So there is, yeah, I'm a little bit disappointed that they aren't going to be able to finish this story. But at the same time, I want to temper that because I love what James Gunn is doing. So there's that. Um, Something else I guess we should talk about. He doesn't appear in the movie much, but it was exciting to see Martian Manhunter.
Yes, and that was
Um,
something we had talked about before when we
yeah, I
talked about
briefly touched on it. Yeah.
were they prepping up for it, or if it was one of those things where Uh, and I remember that there were people on social media saying at the time, they're like, "Ooh, I wonder if that guy's Martian Manhunter." And
Well, see, I don't know. See, here's the thing. First of all, I did say before, I was a little bit like I'm a little disappointed that the one really good scene we got with Lois and Martha, it turned out to not be Martha. It was Martian Manhunter. I mean, I can understand Martian Manhunter is there getting Lois back, because he knew she was going to be needed. But it's still kind of disappointing that we didn't actually have Martha talking to Lois. But what I kind of thought about also was that Harry Lennox plays, Martian Manhunter, and he's also the U.S. Secretary of Defense, Calvin Stanwyck.
mhm.
And that I mentioned in when we were talking about Man of Steel. I know that when they made Man of Steel, he probably didn't know yet. I mean, Zack Snyder probably hadn't decided yet that that was going to be Martian Manhunter, because if he was already Martian Manhunter, why would he just sit out this whole fight that Superman had against Zod? And maybe we'll never know. But on the other hand, I really enjoyed seeing Martian Manhunter, so I don't have that much bad to say about it because it was great seeing him.
Yeah,
And that is a movie that I would have liked to see.
a
If the
Martian
if the
Manhunter
DC
movie.
Yeah, if the DCEU was still going on, I would have wanted to see a Martian Manhunter movie. Um,
Well, I'll
but
tell
then
you this. Speaking of that, coming back to Cyborg, I would have loved a Cyborg movie. I mean,
oh,
even
definitely.
before that, a Cyborg movie would be good. But after seeing the Snyder cut and seeing that whole thing, how deep, well, not that I didn't know that, but being able to see it up on the screen and kind of like Snyder's what he wanted to do with Cyborg, I think that it would have been awesome to have an actual,
Definitely.
yeah,
Yeah. But I
cyborg, a
think
cyborg movie.
because with certain characters, it's really great when you give them a lot of depth, and we want to see that, we the audience. Some characters don't necessarily need it. Like I've always loved the fact that the Joker doesn't have a backstory. And that's not to say I didn't enjoy the Joker movie with Joaquin Phoenix, but that isn't necessarily a true story about the Joker. Some people even say that isn't the Joker that we know. He's like the proto Joker, and the Joker that we know mimics this guy. Um, what's his name?
Arthur Fleck.
Arthur Fleck. Yeah, it's possible because the Joker himself, at one point, I believe it was in The Killing Joke, he was being interviewed by a doctor, and he said, I the way I see it, if you're going to have a backstory, it may as well be multiple choice. I love the fact that in some cuts, in some versions of it, the Joker doesn't even know for sure himself what his own origin is. But other characters, it really works well to give them a lot of depth. Think about Mr. Freeze, who originally was just a character, like a bad guy who was obsessed with making things cold.
Hmm.
Then when they made the Mr. Freeze episode for Batman the Animated Series, they decided to throw in this whole thing about his wife, and he's trying to save his wife from this deadly disease by freezing her, and he needs to find a cure. And of course, what happens to him makes him require sub-zero temperatures all the time. That made him a character it was a moving story. That became that became his character going forward because it was
Sure.
such a powerful story. Same thing with Two-Face, rather than just being some evil guy who's obsessed with the number two, they gave him this great backstory where
Right.
and that's why Aaron Eckhart's performance in The Dark Knight was so great,
Right.
as opposed to whatever they were thinking about when they did the same character with what's his name?
Tommy Lee Jones.
Tommy Lee Jones. I love Tommy Lee Jones as an actor, but what the hell were they thinking when they told him how to play Two-Face? Because that wasn't Two-Face. Um,
Well, yeah, that's a whole nother topic of going
yeah, yeah, we're
into
not gonna
how we
talk about
move. I
Batman.
mean, just I think we actually mentioned it before how you went from Batman Returns and it was like, ooh, ah, it was too dark, and let's go more comic book ish with it, and then suddenly Batman Forever, and
But they didn't
the
even
bad
know the
guys. The
characters.
bad
Yeah,
guys had machine guns that had neon lit up inside the drums of their magazines.
yeah,
They
yeah.
definitely went more
But it
comic
was
bookish, so he
bizarre.
played it. He played it
But yeah,
outlandishly.
yeah, but they also didn't know the characters. They had no idea who the
Right.
characters were. So they made the Riddler a stand-in for the Joker. He was basically the Joker. And they did the same thing with Two-Face. He's the Joker, except like an ugly version of the Joker. An uglier version. I don't know.
No, I don't know about that. It was just
The point was that, well, because of the face thing.
right,
But
right.
the point was that they didn't know the characters at all.
Yeah.
And Two-Face is a very powerful character that you want to see, like most people, I think, want to see him turn good because it's such a great story and you kind of feel for the guy,
Yeah.
but you also
It's
understand exactly why he is this way,
I think
you know.
that as we're talking about this, I think that there's a lot of when they throw these extra villains in because they figure people just want to see them, and they give them just a very superficial, like, oh look, you and I talked about it earlier with like Spider-Man 3 where they threw Venom in, and we don't need to get into that, but Topher Grace played it, and there's not an understanding of the
Hmm.
character. Now we have Venom movies, that at least give some depth, if not completely sticking with, not
Yeah,
even close.
they're
But what
not
I'm the
great
point I'm trying to
movies, but they are closer to what Topher Grace did.
Right. But the point I'm trying to make is, cash grab probably being the number one reason. I think that there's an underestimating of the audience who connects with these characters, just as you spoke about. They have backstories. There's people that can relate to them, or you can at least be deeper in their journey, because there's something that happened to them, and they're not just, oh look, there's Two Face, being Two Face. There's more to him than that. Like the difference, like you just mentioned, between Tommy Lee Jones, Two
Mhm.
Face, versus, and it has nothing to do with Tommy Lee Jones. It's just that
Yeah, the
representation
the
of Two
way they
Face
told him to
versus
play it.
Aaron Eckhart's, which is the whole tortured soul thing. And I
Yeah.
think that bringing that back around to Justice League, I think that the biggest thing for the Snyder cut is the depth that and the time that they took to, I don't want to say develop these characters, but expand the characters for the audience so that you can get more in their lives and be more, like a part of like what they're doing and taking that journey with them, because each of them does have a journey that they have to take. And I think it's extremely well done in the Snyder cut, uh, versus um versus the not just the Whedon cut, but even previous movies. Like you mentioned, Superman, while just a little bit here and there, was a little more Superman-esque. I thought in the Snyder cut, when he comes in to fight Steppenwolf and shows up, he delivers some very Superman-ish lines, um, that I thought was a little bit better. Um, Speaking of Superman, the black costume. I know we got to mention it.
Um, I mean,
That was a
the
big
whole movie
deal. That
was
was a big deal for a
I
lot of people. Is
I
because we were promised the black suited, and there was the stills, and part of the original preview was that we were going to see him in the black costume, and we got just a little bit of it in Man of Steel with him standing there, but it never happened in this one. It's black costume, and um, like I thought that
the
was.
thing is that I like the movie was kind of dark to the point that I barely noticed. So it didn't seem like a big deal to me, but
Well, it was a big deal for, you know, comic book fans. I like the scene where he was walking through the ship and all the suits were popping out in the
yeah,
Snyder
yeah.
Cut. And it was like he could put on his original suit if he wanted to, but he chose that one. I think that was very telling, um, for him, to choose that suit. But seeing him in the black costume, was pretty freaking cool, because that was from the Death of Superman
Yeah,
series.
yeah.
After, in the comic
After
book,
he
he
comes
dies,
back.
and he comes
Yeah.
back as like Reign of the Superman. That's a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
Um, you know,
I had that whole I still have that whole series.
oh,
I
yeah,
don't collect comic books as a general rule because I don't have the time or the money or the inclination. But in 1992, when they killed Superman, I had to get the whole Death of Superman series. I got the World Without a Superman series. I think it
yep,
was called Funeral with a Friend,
yes,
Funeral for a Friend, and then I got the whole Reign of the Superman series and read the whole thing, loved it, and was very excited when Superman made his return and he was wearing the black suit.
yes,
But it didn't have a cape.
right. But the cape's still cool.
Yeah, I
All I can think of is Edna Mode. No capes.
um. So then I guess the only other thing to talk about is that something we didn't have to we barely got it in the Joss Whedon version, but we get more of it in Zack Snyder's version is we get a return of our favorite Lex Luthor.
No, yes,
Yeah,
Jesse Eisenberg.
Jesse
Well,
Eisenberg. Okay,
I
I say our favorite. He's not our favorite. Okay, for those of you just joining us,
yes,
he's not our
exactly.
favorite. He's
Yeah,
our
no, he's
favorite to make fun of. The guy
right.
is awful as Lex Luthor. He
Well,
is
yeah, Lex Luthor. He's bald, at
at
least.
least, yeah. Now he's bald at least instead of
And
having a head of hair.
we also got Deathstroke. During that ending
Yeah,
sequence.
yeah, yeah. We got that in
Um,
both versions, but it plays out longer
it does,
in
and
Zack
I
Snyder's
think that
version.
we got Jared Leto's Joker return.
Again, that was only on Zack Snyder's version, but yeah, I
Right.
was getting to that too. Yeah, in Zack Snyder's version, we get the nightmare scene, which again, for those, like I said before, it was setting up Superman as a villain. I want to stress that because that is why I don't like Henry Cavill's version of Superman as much as David Cornsweet or Christopher Reeve or any other Superman. And it's not Henry Cavill's fault. He's a great actor. It's just
Christopher Reeve did go bad in Superman 3. Just
yeah,
saying.
but then he also, came back. Like I
Well,
don't have a problem.
I'm
I
sure
don't have
that
a pro
arc was going to happen with Henry Cavill's Superman too.
well, yeah, he probably would have come back because Zack Snyder did say he was going to be corrupted by Darkseid and not just be himself like he
Which you
was
do get in the
in
Snyder cut because he's kneeling there, Superman's kneeling there, and Darkseid comes up and puts his hand on his shoulder, a comforting hand. So there
yeah,
was definitely a setup for that.
yeah.
Um,
But we also get the Joker as we were saying, and it's odd. I have no hatred for Jared Leto like some people do. I mean,
See, I didn't either.
I don't have a problem with him. I don't think he's the touch of death for movies. I know that he was disappointing as the Joker, and people, of course, talk about the fact that he was also more Morbius, and they want to make fun of it.
I didn't see Morbius.
I
I
did
didn't
see
have a
Morbius. It is a pretty awful movie, but it isn't Jared Leto's fault necessarily. I mean, I'm not saying the guy is the next uh, great actor. I was trying
I
to think
can't
of
wait
someone.
for Tron
I,
Ares, by the
yeah,
way,
I'm
with
looking
Jared
forward
Leto.
to that.
So looking forward to that next week. But anyway,
I'm looking forward to that. I thought he was fine in Blade Runner 20 what was it? 2042?
2049.
2049. Okay. I mean, it wasn't anywhere near as good as the original Blade Runner, but it was fine. Jared Leto is in one of my favorite movies of all time. Not a starring role, but a supporting role in one of my favorite movies of all time, which is Fight Club.
Fight Club's yeah. Fight Club's classic.
Fight Club is one of my favorite movies ever, and Jared Leto is in it.
Yes.
Um, so he's not the touch of death the movies, but his Joker doesn't really work. It's not awful. It could have been worse. It could have been Jesse Eisenberg, but still,
Well,
that
they do
laugh.
have him more jokery. I remember everybody was really in
Yeah,
Suicide Squad. Everybody was upset with his look and the tattoos and
yeah, he
all
was
that
more
other
of a
stuff.
gangster. Yeah, because in Suicide Squad, he was playing like a gangster
In this
version
one, he
of
had
Joker.
the
Yeah,
more
he's
clown face, the red lips, smeared
yeah,
around, and the white face,
but
and
the laugh wasn't great. You
yeah.
know.
But it was his interpretation of of the Joker.
I
I
don't know what he
mean,
was going for though. Creepy?
well, he
Was
was
that
definitely
it?
was going for creepy. I mean, you could say the same thing about uh, again at the time. The problem is we've had all these movies, so yeah, whenever I always find I have to put myself in the frame of mind at that time of like with that's it's not like a that's all we had. It was just we hadn't seen anything. Like Heath Ledger's version of the Joker. I know a fair amount of people initially had problems with because they're like, he's coming off as a serial killer. That first close-up shot that they did a still of his face that they released, and you could see the
Yeah.
cuts on his cheeks and stuff like that, and everybody's like,
Yeah.
"What the hell is this?" I mean, everybody was kind of like, "What?" And then he did it, and he played it a particular way that was, um, again, it's not George Romero. It's not. I think it's funny, even if you weren't necessarily a fan or watched much of the Batman the animated series. I think overall that Joker, the Mark Hamill voiced Joker, is kind
Hmm.
of the way we all kind of see as like
Yeah,
the
and I
baseline, like or that's the norm of how the Joker
well, yeah,
should
Mark
be.
Hamill, I think Mark Hamill is hands down the best Joker that we've ever had. Um, I mean, it's even in the middle of his name, Arkham.
Yes.
Uh, but aside from that, no, he is the definitive
Oh, I
Joker.
didn't realize that.
But
Arkham. Oh,
yeah,
you got me on that one. Wow.
really, you didn't know that?
No, I
You take out the M in Mark and you
yeah,
take out
I got that. I
the
got that.
yeah.
Yeah. Wow,
Um,
that's pretty cool.
yeah. But on top of that, it's
Markham
just
Ill. Arkham Ill. Okay, there you go. Sorry, go ahead.
um like that but I am okay with seeing different versions of the Joker. I don't need them all to be a play on Mark Hamill's version. Um and obviously Jack Nicholson isn't because Mark Hamill came after Jack Nicholson. Same thing with what's his name? Caesar
Oh, Caesar Romero.
Caesar Romero played it. But the thing is that the Joker, his character, even though we don't know why he is the way he is, like the big thing with his character is he thinks life is a joke. He thinks it's funny. He does the things that he does because he thinks it's funny. So his laugh is genuine, even though no one else's is because it's not funny. It's horrific.
Right.
But when we see how Jared Leto plays it, he's not laughing. He's not laughing at all. He's just like doing this almost making fun of laughter thing that doesn't work for me because that's not the Joker. And I don't know whose idea it was to do that kind of laugh, but it just was weird. Um, because it doesn't look like the Joker thinks it's funny. He, and he probably shouldn't because Superman taking over the world and destroying it and Lois Lane is dead. Harley Quinn is dead in that version. Like they talk about that. So, he shouldn't find it funny, but the Joker would definitely find it funny.
Yeah.
So that laugh was just it didn't work for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you can I mean everybody's got their own. I mean, Heath Ledger, it was like
Great laugh
boo,
though.
ha.
Oh yeah, the first time because he was making fun of them, but he laughed later on, and
Yeah,
he
he
got that
did.
great laugh.
He did. I guess it's just I don't I again people have I think it just comes down to the simple fact that people are like, "Oh, when I think of the Joker, I think of this." So when it's too different, they're like, "Oh, no, I just want to see the Joker." And that's the dichotomy to me that presents itself as I mentioned earlier, which is you've got the studios going, people want to see this character, just throw him up on the screen. And then they do that, and then everybody's like, well, wait, there's more to that person than just that. Um, and I know the laugh is iconic, but the Joker has become an iconic person, as you spoke about earlier. There is some backstory that's developed here and there that we didn't get. Speaking of backstory, I wanted to bring up the how they added back in the Snyder cut that was not even remotely there. It wasn't there in the Whedon version. Was Volko, Willem Dafoe's character Volko, coming
Mm,
back in, and he was a little harsher in this one. It was like, hey, get your ass in gear, you
yeah.
know. And it was funny because he goes to that scene, and I'm like, it threw me off because it's hard, It was like he's in the Aquaman movie. He had to go find King Atland and find the Trident, and yet in Zack Snyder's Justice League, it was like a quiet place that he went, and he just hung out with the bones of the old king, and the Trident's right there, covered in
Yeah.
like coral or whatever it is, the buildup of that type of stuff, and then they have their thing there, and they talk about they do a little more alluding to Orem and how he's lying to the people and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
So there was some build up there
Set up for Aquaman.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
set up for Aquaman. So I think there was a lot of again setting up for some of these future movies. They kept it the same, where like the Atlanteans speaking underwater, they spoke in like this whale dolphin type of thing, whereas in Aquaman everybody just talked to everybody.
Yeah, well, they would make pockets of air so they could talk.
Well, no, but even in like in the Snyder cut in the Whedon version, but in Aquaman,
Yeah,
they're just underwater and just talking.
So I think on that note, I think we've said everything that needs to be said about Justice League and Zack Snyder's Justice League. I can't think of anything else to bring up. Do you have anything like last minute things to add?
No, nothing really. I mean, I know this is something that we could, go through with a fine tooth comb, but I think we hit all the major points.
Yeah, like we don't need to, you know. So, but I think overall we kind of liked both of them pretty similarly. So no disagreements there, which is always great. Next week we are going to hit Aquaman, the first Aquaman movie.
Yes.
And I guess that's about everything there is to say. So, for those of you who are listening, I want to thank you for listening. If you've made it this far, and if you haven't already, please hit like and subscribe. And as always, you know the words: make tomorrow better than yesterday.